Hey guys, it's Emily Schaller, and you're watching the RockCF Boltcast. Before we get started, there's a few things we need to go over. First off, nothing on this podcast should be considered medical advice. Medical advice should only come from your doctor. Views expressed on this podcast are solely opinions of the guest and not necessarily opinions of myself or the RockCF Foundation. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of the RockCF Boltcast.
This episode of the RockCF Boltcast is sponsored by Vertex Pharmaceuticals.
I'm Brandon Miller. I am 34 years old, living in Boise, Idaho. Moved here from Michigan about 2 years ago, and I am absolutely loving it. It has upped my training for my triathlon so much, and my health has just skyrocketed.
So it's a little bit hillier than Michigan?
A little bit, yeah. There's a couple more hills here. We're only about 5 minutes from the foothills and about 20 minutes from the mountains, so you can get all sorts of training here.
I like to launch into your diagnosis story. When were you diagnosed? How did it come about?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed pretty much right at birth because my sister's 3.5 years older than me. She had a lot more complications because there was no history of CF in our families, and she just had a lot of digestive problems, wasn't gaining weight. She was pretty sickly, and my parents took her in and they said, yeah, she's got CF. So my parents kind of learned what to do with a child that is going through that, how to deal with it themselves, and then decided, let's try another one. And then turned out that 2 was enough.
And then what were some early symptoms for you? Were you more like digestion?
So yeah, mine was big time digestion. I had stomach problems throughout my whole childhood. Just pills didn't really help a whole lot.
Right, so enzyme therapy, chest PT. So your parents were doing chest PT on you and your sister. Right?
Yeah, oh, they loved it. Yeah, there was like a pillow set up right in front of the TV. You know, you lay your chest on the pillow and it would be Angie first and then me next.
When did CF kind of become real for you? I know digestive issues is where you started. When did lung complications start to set in and things kind of hit your brain oh, I've got CF?
I think mentally and emotionally it hit me probably when I was around 12 or 13. Getting called down to the principal's office to take my meds, definitely I knew nobody else was doing that. I knew that I was separated from the rest of the school. Not everybody knew that I had CF, and that really didn't go over well with everyone. High school kids bully. Sadly, it's a reality, and kids thought that I wasn't able to do what I wanted to do, that I was different. I was all of a sudden different from everybody else, and that wasn't a good thing to them. I think when I was about 15 years old, I kind of had a rebellious period, probably 3 or 4 months, where I would do my treatments here or there, but for the most part, just kind of put them off. Honestly, hid them from my parents. And it really started to take its toll, and I was like, this doesn't feel good at all. I'd much rather just take the time, do my treatments, feel good, be able to do what I want to do, not hack up a lung every 20 seconds, not feel like my chest is so heavy. And that really snowballed into just everything else that I'm doing nowadays, just keep pushing myself farther and farther and farther, and just try and push through what I thought was my limits, and now I feel almost limitless.
Dude, that's a good line. I like that. Tell us, how did you start? And was it, you'd never run before and you're I'm gonna go run a 5K, or what was your running journey?
Started with weightlifting, right after high school. I just wasn't able to put on weight from just eating, and so I was I gotta put muscle on. So I just started weightlifting, and I started doing a lot of calisthenics, and then I was well, my lungs gotta feel good too, and this isn't enough. And so I started running a little bit, and then I met Jo, and she ran all the time. And so I was well, I guess this is who I am now. so I just ran nonstop. Gosh, we used to run 5 days a week, and it just felt so good. It was exponentially better than before with all the pounding on the pavement and working up that mucus. I felt so much better.
Was it hard to get started? Were your lungs like, yo, what are you doing, man? Walk us through that.
My first run with Joe, I think, was only like 4 or 5 miles, but I could not go down a flight of stairs the next day. My legs hurt so bad that we got to work the next day, and I was like, Joe, I have to take the elevator. She's like, it's like 10 stairs. I was like, I can't do this. And I think it was 5 days until I wasn't sore again and I could actually run. But after that first like long run, I just kept going, and we kept pushing our distances. And now I've got a month left until a 140.6 mile triathlon. It feels so good to keep pushing yourself and pushing yourself and pushing yourself.
People hear Ironman and sometimes they have no clue what it is. So what does it include? What is each distance, and how long have you been training?
So started triathlon training about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's kind of snowballed into just going farther and farther. It was 70.3 Ironmans, and now it's full distance, which is 140.6 miles. You start with a 2.4 mile swim, then you hop on your bike, you do a 112 mile bike ride, and then you hop off your bike, put your running shoes on, and you do a full marathon.
So what's your favorite part of multisport?
Oh, definitely the bike. The bike is my absolute favorite, and the water, they could just extend the bike if they want. I don't need the water.
So if you could go back in time, what would you tell your younger self?
I'd probably tell myself to not take myself so seriously. You shouldn't carry everything on your shoulders. Like, everything's not up to you. Not everything is planned, not everything happens the way it should, and you just gotta be able to roll with it.
After the Ironman, what are your goals for the future?
2024, we are doing Ironman Coeur d'Alene, and then eventually I would love to qualify for Boston. I think that would be a huge, fun thing to do. And then beyond that, I would love to go to Kona for the Ironman World Championships at some point.
What advice would you give to people with CF our age and even younger?
Just don't let anyone get in your way. Even if it's yourself, you can do it. It doesn't matter if you think you can't, you can do it. You just gotta put the work in and just keep going day by day by day. Don't look too far ahead if it seems impossible. If you can just keep doing one thing after the other and let that snowball into something so much bigger than what you ever thought it could be, you'll get there.